Hello, I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fable 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and Taryn. Uh, Today we're doing quests and answers, and we're gonna talk about multiclassing. I've already derailed myself. Everything that you see that's 3D printed in all of our streams is brought to you by Griffin Co. And check out our Patreon. Like, wow, I derailed everything.
You're welcome.
You literally said Taryn and just ruined it. So
I did.
Taryn ruins it all.
Yeah. Thanks, Shalgal. This is what we get now.
So if you're also playing remotely, like most of us are, go ahead and check out our friends at Vorpalboard, and we have a Patreon out. So go ahead and check out the link down below to our Patreon. We have a lot of exciting things coming down the pipe. We have content. We have private pieces of video interviews and other things like that. We have giveaways. Oh, I have to do the January giveaway because it is February 1st today. So if you're a Patreon subscriber and if you join right now, you'll be part of that giveaway because I forgot. And we have a prom watch party on the 21st of February at roughly noon. I'll get a harder date the sooner we get closer because...
Made it a whole 3
minutes.
It's been
a long day, Taryn, right? Long day? Got it.
It's been a long day.
Anyway, we're talking about multiclassing today. So we're going on the quest to find the answers for all of you. Let's talk about our panelist, Taryn.
Hi, my name is Taryn Hackett. You can catch me on Instagram at Balrook, Valrouk. I make dice and I post pictures of my cat and I do cosplay stuff now because why not? You can also catch me on Legends of Shalgal every Monday, including today playing Jinx Valpova, the shifter monk who has thighs for days.
That's fair.
So yeah.
Rene.
Hi, I'm Rene Beauregard. I'm one half of Dragon Rock RPG Design. You can find us down here on Instagram and Twitter, as well as Facebook at Dragon Rock RPG. We make supplements for 5e, be it races, feats, subclasses, you name it, magical items as well. So you can check out our stuff on DM's Guild. You can search Icons of Horror, where you can turn your PCs into horror movie villains. It's a free to download PDF. It's got a suggested price there if you want to support us. Otherwise, just leave us a review and a rating so that we can know how we're doing. As well, if you are interested in commissioning something from myself and my partner Daniel, don't hesitate to reach out to us either on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, as well as our email, dragonrock.rpgdesign@gmail.com.
We'll be reaching out for a couple.
All right.
We're here for you.
Excuse me, I've been walking for a while and I finally seem to have arrived. Jordan here, better known as Casual Campbell. And on social media is casual_Campbell, as well as all through the Discord for Fable 42, and playing also later today. I'll be Rex for Legend of Shalgal, as well as Olden on Shadows in the North, and Clay in Vault 42, among many other things. And I am excited for this upcoming month as we are stepping into Black History Month, in which we're going to ensure Fable 42 is going to have a lot of surprises to show a lot of you for this month. So stay tuned for the beautiful wonder that is Black Excellence, brought to you by Fable 42.
Here, here.
Amazing. That being said, we have to talk.
We do
next week. So
probably one of the messages you deleted.
Don't you put him on blast live on air? How dare?
You know what? That's fine. I got it from Rene to clean up my Discord, and I feel really good about it. I don't think I've deleted anything that I needed. I looked at each one, but maybe I.
I'm just a little salty from Sunday's events. It's fine. If I had been multi-classed, I might have survived.
No, I was gunning for you. Okay. Renee paid me a lot of money to gun for you.
I did. A whole $20.
Hey, your suffering, Taryn, led to Fable 42 reaching our
I would have
goal.
done it if you just asked nicely.
Honeys.
If you just asked nicely, I would have done it. So it's fine.
I saved people. I'm just throwing it out there. I killed a thing.
Point is, lightning returns.
But the beautiful part is I killed your companion so you could watch him die, and then we killed you. But then we watched your companion die, and then you watch someone else's companion die, and then come back, and then we killed you. On that note, Taryn, let's
Yes.
talk about multiclassing.
Yep.
Yup.
So about multiclassing.
Yeah, actually, so about multiclassing, I'm a flavor player. I'm a flavor DM. I'm a rule of cool person. I'm probably someday, very soon, going to drive Rene nuts when he watches me DM a little bit because a player is, I kid you not, is going to ask me, can I do this? And I'm just going to go, yeah, go for it.
Oh, you mean a monk that can do healing from a distance by throwing darts?
Yep, go for it. Want to know why? Because it's not going to break my stuff. Multiclassing. I like doing things because it makes sense for the character. So it's a lot of fun story-wise for me. All of the characters that I have made. I don't think I've ever personally gone into a multi-class purely because I'm like, oh, I can combine my barbarian and my rogue and get permanent like sneak attack. That's not something I've ever done because I like it to be like, as when I actually get to play, I like it to be difficult. I like to be scared, and I'm a difficulty person, and so I'm like, yeah, let's make it difficult for myself. I have a splash of storm sorcerer, and I can only use like lightning spells. Will that suck? Maybe, possibly, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's about fun, right?
Yeah, flavor.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a similar mindset. Although it's usually predetermined for me. When I do multiclassing, it's usually because I've built the character in my head to be a certain way, and it goes, oh well, they're not entirely this, and they're not entirely this, so I have to kind of piece together the subclasses is what it is really for me, is going, yeah, so I have this character who's the kingmaker, essentially, the guy behind the guy making it all happen, but he does most of his work in the shadows. Okay, well, that's a mastermind gloomstalker. So I build that character out in that way, and then eventually, I figure out what the final total of combined levels are, and that creates the character and what it is. So for me, it depends on the character I'm making, but that's usually on my mind from the outset.
See, my approach is I always don't want to be the main protagonist. That's how I multiclass. The main protagonist is always perfect at something. What they eventually become, but I'm like, I'll never be perfect at everything. Like a resume, you got a job at 16 and 18 and you kept doing different jobs until you reached your true career.
Sure.
So I build my character backwards. I'm like, all right, this is where I landed at level, I even planned this is level 20, and then I just mix it. I'm like, well, if this is how I would be, a little splash of rogue with a little splash of barbarian with a little splash of this, because I train with this person and this person. Like, if you'd be a better fighter as a rogue, I don't feel like you wouldn't be better as a rogue. You would be better as a fighter, or maybe a ranger or barbarian, because it would make more sense. And I'm not here to be powerful. I'm here to be extremely flavorful. I'm like 7 herbs and spices with my class building.
Yeah, and then you end up with Rex, which
oh man,
it's it's one of those things too, because as a DM and as a player who likes to multi-class as well, like I've known a lot of DMs that don't like multi-classing, and it's fine, and I kind of get it, but like, why? Like, it lets them be killed easier. Like, like there's certain things. Sorry, I'm just on a very dark tangent. It's gonna be a very dark week, guys. Sorry, Realms. I didn't kill enough people this week, yesterday, so sorry, guys.
Excuse me, a very dark week. Why?
Because I only killed you and Eddie.
No. Yeah, but this week we have.
We have a lot of people. Well, people are dying every day till Saturday.
So
as we continue,
it's fun when you watch a player like really get into it, right? So like if you just like, I want to be a barbarian, cool, you're a barbarian, that's fine, and you can have a lot of really fun backstory with why you're a barbarian, and that's it, barbarian. But if you're like, I'm a cleric, and especially when it's not premeditated, I mean, you might have an idea, like maybe at some point, like, hey Chris, I'm gonna play in your game. Way down the line, I kind of feel like, I want to have like a crisis of faith. Like I want to like not like my God anymore. Cool. Thank you. There's a story arc in itself right there. At level 9, you give up on your God and you find a warlock pact, and all of a sudden you're, a grave cleric, warlock of the Great Old One or something, right? Or the Undying, which fits. So like, it's fun to do that, like for reasons, right? So like, Vax, right, from Critical Role.
Excellent.
Like,
Yep.
Didn't he
Yeah.
have? Didn't he did Paladin and
And
something else?
Rogue.
And, well, no, I thought he had a third.
And
Something else?
Rogue.
And, well, no, I thought he had a third. It was just Paladin and Rogue, right?
I think it's Paladin Rogue, yeah.
But, you know,
probably
like,
Rogue.
that was late in the game.
Yeah.
It was Dagger for a hot minute, and then it was something else because of story
Dagger.
reasons, right? So, like, it. We know you're in love with him. I got it. Liam, if you're watching.
Just Vax.
Please
sorry, whatever.
follow, like, and subscribe if you
Yeah,
are.
please, if
Yeah,
you are.
please. Liam O'Brien, I just want to talk to you about what it feels like to sit next to Sam Riegel and not want to punch him all the time.
Rene. No, it's actually
Yes.
funny that you. On a side note, it is funny that you mentioned like the cleric thing.
Yeah.
When I DM for my husband and his friends, he started out as a grave cleric, and he started playing it, and really it was just that he kind of just got pissed off about it because it just kind of progressed naturally for him in one of my games that he became disenfranchised with his god,
Yeah.
and he's just like after one of the sessions, like everybody left and he went, okay, like you've noticed my character's been reading a lot of books, and I was like, yes. And he was like,
Yeah.
my character is going to become a wizard, and he's specifically going to start studying necromancy because he realizes he can do it himself. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna go real dark with this one.
Yeah.
And it was then immediately, like the moment he got animate dead, there was like undead teddy bears and
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the way, like, how I started multiclassing. When I think I really started doing it was I was leveling up, playing a campaign, and at some point I was like, I don't like this route I'm going with. And it was like when I first started playing D&D at the same time. So I was like, well, how do I change class? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like I know where my character's going. And they're like, oh, you want to roll a new character? I'm like, no. Like, my character no longer feels like a rogue. Like, they want to wield a sword and a shield and guard their friends because they're tired of watching people get hurt. And they're like, well, you can multi-class. And I'm like, please go on. Like, well, you could just go down this route if you want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they're like, but the only problem is you could become much weaker compared to someone. I'm like, but I don't care because I've never cared about the mechanics of it too much.
Yeah.
I'm so driven into like building the fun story, and I can care less if my character is not strong. And I just want to, that's like the essential build of Rex is entirely no power base at all. It wasn't even power. I literally was like, I want to just be good at everything.
Yeah.
And they're like, and I was like, by the math, I will never be better than like a level 2 right now. Not a level 2 caster. All I can do is level 2 casting, even though we're like level 7, I think. And I'm like, who cares about?
Yeah, but being better
question.
is subjective because
Exactly.
you have utility spells that are helpful as hell even in combat. Like message is one of the most underrated cantrips
All the
ever.
time.
And everyone's like, "Why do you
All
want
the time.
message?" I'm like, "Why not?"
I'll be
Hey
honest.
guys, they're coming to get you from behind. Turn around. Or hey guys, I'm in trouble. Like there's so many
So many
things you can use it for. But
Like I'm.
yeah, so like what you're saying, Jordan, that's really the big difference between like XP leveling and milestone.
Milestone,
Because
yeah.
milestone, when you do milestone, you can still have the power hungry, I'm going to kill everything, I'm going to do 300 points of damage people mixed in with the people who don't do that. Because you help on the other side, right? That's where you get that yin yang, that party balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's true. I couldn't be an XP because like I'm just thinking about like the utility spells that Rex uses. Most of the people he would never fight or try to kill. So then it was all about resolving conflict. Like the example in Child Go, we were gonna face orcs, and Rex was like, "No, stop, convert them to the religion of Rex." But most people that doesn't count as XP because I technically didn't beat him, and I've never liked XP because it does prevent a lot of that story style because it's like you're punished for not being a murder hobo.
Yeah, kind of. Essentially, it pulls away from the actual story element, and what it does is it essentially commodifies death. Is what that does. Is it creates this thing where you either kill the thing to get the full amount of experience, or you avoid it and only get half. Like I've never been cool with XP. Like I understand why it exists and why it has to continue to exist for things like Adventurers League and power gaming and stuff like that. But like at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, the flavor of being able to bend and weave your story into what feels right narratively is just so important on like on such a level for me that like, you know, now that I've DM'd for the amount of time that I have, before this most recent home group that I'm playing with, it was all multi-class, like, or sorry, not all multi-class, all mono-class, and everybody was just doing their class, and every level they would get something more, and it would just continue. Now I'm in a group of people where there's only one person, two persons who are not multi-classed.
No.
Out of a party of 6, and like the routes that they took to get where they are, and like the reason, like it's, I don't allow anybody to multi-class without reason. That's my thing. I'm not a dungeon master who doesn't like multi-classing just because it muddles things, but I don't like multi-classing without a purpose. Hell, I don't even like when you take a feat without a reason. Like even for myself, like I played a Forge cleric for 2.5 years with this party that I was with. And it wasn't until we got to level 16. And finally I went, and this is when Tasha's was in UA. Like most of those new feats were in UA. So Meta Magic Adept had just kind of come out, and I went, we have a sorcerer in our group. That's a reason why I could take Meta Magic Adept, because he's shown me how to push my spells just a little bit more. And I like, you know, I like purpose and reason.
Well, you know, spinning off of purpose and reason, there are some limitations with the rules of D&D. Not really, but there are rules and limitations. Because I've had players in the past be like, oh man, you know, I really felt like in this moment or in this story beat that, you know, my character would have gone in this direction, but I don't have 13 intelligence. I'm like, are you sure? Go check your character sheet. And they check it, and it's 13 now. And they're like, I don't care. Have 13 intelligence, because guess what? You take the class, you can technically dial it back after you have it, and then it's fine. Or it's 13 intelligence. Who cares? Like, if that's why you feel like you, especially like Rene, like, for a reason. I'm like, oh, that's a good reason. That's a good reason for me to give you 3 more intelligence, so then you can get the thing that you want to get. Absolutely.
And Mercer did that recently, like in the middle of campaign 2 with Travis. He essentially made that like chrysalis seaweed thing with Ford, and then he came out with 13 strength so that he could be a paladin. Like that was
I'm not
how...
caught up. I stopped at 70, I think, so I don't know what's going on.
But yeah, no,
that's cool.
That's what had happened. Like there was a thing where, you know, he switched from Uk'otoa to the Wild Mother, and now he is where he is. But like there are pure character defining moments where you can sit down with a player and pull them aside and say, listen, I see where you're going. Here are the options that I think are available to you. Do you have any ideas other than this that I think would be, you know, that you think would be interesting? Or if a player comes to you and says, hey, like I'm really like, I think this is where this character is going. Can we figure something out? And these moments are ones where you need to take them like by the rails and just kind of like pull them up and just go, you know what, we're doing this together. And multi-classing is such an easy way to allow your players to feel fulfilled in their character.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Like my home game that is where I was actually a player, we finally got to play like 5 times. Like, well, we got to play quite a bit, and then, you know, things happened, so I haven't played that in like a year. I was playing an Air Genasi Storm Barbarian. And she didn't know she was a Genasi. That was the thing. Like the way he had set this world up, there's lots of elemental disorder and other things. And there was a fun backstory there of like, she didn't know what she was. And so she had started figuring out that she could make little things happen. And so she kind of just kept focusing on it. And like, I made a point, like at one point I was like, I really want her to go a little bit of Storm Sorcerer. Like, I want to be Thor. It's going to be stupid. It's not going to work. But I kept doing it, and eventually like, and I just would roll and see if she was gonna do it, and eventually like he was like, okay, you go to play with it, and suddenly like there's a lightning strike, and like this was at the end of a run, and he was like, by the way, you've all leveled up, and I was just like, there it is, like perfect. Well, it was just, you can integrate it and really fulfill like a player that, again, it was a dumb combo, still is. I love her to death though. Like, but it made my little heart happy.
You know, when you and I talked about that character specifically, because it's Barbarian and Storm Sorcerer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I created an item, I haven't posted it yet, that lets you cast spells while raging.
Oh, you and I gotta talk. You and I need
So
a serious
what you're
conversation.
saying- oh.
But
I'm not going to touch that.
but that's the point, though. You do it for fun, for flavor, right? So,
Yes.
like, you're not a level 17 Barbarian and then cast, second level spells, because that you're not going to do much with that. But if it works for your character, I don't know. There's a lot of fun things you can do, and that's why I like D&D Beyond as a tool, because it helps with multiclassing. Like
It does help, especially with,
Yes.
it
because,
helps
like,
your brain.
as a
All the
perspective,
magic items.
I have been working on this multi-class thing for, I feel, months. I'm just trying to find the best version to make it. Because right now, it's just a level 13 character, but it has one of every class.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a video online from an illustrator called Puffin Forest. It is about the story of a character called Absurd, Abserd.
Absurd.
Okay, I want you to watch it. I want you to internalize all of that, and I want you to recognize why that's a bad idea.
However, I think it's a wonderful idea for the simple fact that multiclassing gave me one thing that I love the most. I think it's a hobby. I will watch a movie.
It's not every day that you get to play a
and I will
high-tier 5th
determine
edition.
what multi-class build a person would be. Because every time I watch a movie, like John Wick is one person I'm determined to believe is a fighter rogue at minimum.
Yep.
Maybe a splash of monk for like one of the subclasses, but like I'll watch Maui from Moana. To me, is a bear totem barbarian and possibly a deep warlock with maybe a bit. I don't know what else, but like that's what the build I started with making Maui.
Sure.
And I think multiclassing has been underappreciated by so much because people always try to discourage. Oh, if you multiclass, you won't get that level 20 feat, or you won't get that 4th attack as a fighter. Like you won't capstone. It's like we don't need to capstone. It's a min-max process.
But that's the point. That's the point, though, which leads into the next part of the conversation, which is when you are a sorcerer, but you take 2 levels in something to just give it a oomph. Because unless you're a wizard, like wizard is one of the few classes where you have to go 20, right? Like you want that level 20 stuff. But you don't have to, though. But what I'm saying is, like barbarian, you don't necessarily have to have 20. There's a lot of them where you don't need 20, and they usually your really good thing is 17.
Yeah, like I
give
feel like
you
a rogue,
3. They're like you can be something else. Like
for me, a rogue 11 I think is a reliable talent at 11, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's a solid cap for a rogue, just because how I feel about rogues.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, the main classes as they stand, even though they are technically the most versatile in multiclassing, the 2 classes that you want to take all the way to 20, technically speaking, that's fighter and paladin, and that's like at their core, that's what their purpose is. Because the paladin capstone, like the big thing that paladins get, is at level 20, and that's like usually like this transformation that they go through, and it boosts their abilities like exponentially. But then again, like at the same time, fighter and paladin are the most like immersive. Like for example, how many classes do we have that are based on charisma, right? That have like bard, sorcerer, warlock, paladin, all of those spellcasters, like they can all be intermingled in a way that makes sense.
Yes.
And fighter, you could throw a bit of fighter into any character. All you got to do is have a dex score. That's it. That's all you got. That's all
You're
you
like,
need.
hey, you want to use I know you're a wizard, but you suddenly want to do a sword and shield, but you still want to be a necromancer? All right, here you go.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, Hemian.
But I mean, that's a big thing. Like, one of the combinations I see all the time are like, people will splash, like if you're a sorcerer or you're a bard, they're like a splash of warlock. If they want to do the feat to get Eldritch Blast, or like a little bit of warlock, just really makes your magic for story-wise feel stronger, because it gives you an origin to your magic. And I feel a lot of people lean to warlock for that reason. Warlock is a very story-driven class to me.
Oh yeah.
Well,
because
that's
what it leans into.
Well, that's why I always I tend to splash sorcerer a lot, because the root of sorcerer is that you are innately empowered with this magic, and it's a fun thing to throw at your DM, and say, I have shadow sorcerer. I don't know how I have it or even what it's called, but I can do it, and just hand that to your DM and say, it's in my ancestry or something. You know, like one of my players did that, and it was a beautiful thing. She handed me Shadow Sorcerer, and I was like, and you don't want to know where it came from, and she was like, nope. I was like,
But
I do want to say that, like, even though there's that idea of like you may miss that capstone, I think in the same breath there are combinations that are utterly broken in their own right.
sure.
Oh yeah. Jordan and I experienced that very recently with the Gloomstalker Assassin. You want to play a dirty multi-class? The Gloomstalker Assassin is right where you need to be. Okay, it is deadly. It is quick. It hits hard, and it does not stop for anybody.
It does not. I will say, I think one of my most vicious combinations will always be the Sorcerer Warlock. Exclusively,
Sorlock, yeah.
specifically for the coffee lock combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you make a Warlock that never has to sleep with the aspect of the moon. And then that way you never have to take a long rest. You short rest, get your Warlock spell slots. And you just keep doing that for sorcery points. And you basically just recycle that. Never have to take a long rest. And just keep working through that. And you're set. You just have sorcery points and spell slots on deck.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a vicious combination in its right. Because you're just like, spells because I'm bored.
Yeah.
well, and in that specific line too, though, it's like it's specific subclasses too. It's like a splash of whatever, and okay, like the Gloomstalker, like that combo in and of itself, like specifically because of the subclass abilities, like, and that's one thing that I usually, like, that's not something everybody looks at. Sometimes it's, but like you have the people that'll find the perfect subclasses to just.
Yep.
And I'm like.
Like, you even consider the fighter samurai.
Yeah.
I love samurais, and I like love the idea of samurais. And if you just make a fighter to samurai, that's it, just 3 levels, and then go rogue. The samurai bonus advantage, boom, sneak attack. And the reason I love it is because the moment you do that, you go from samurai to ninja. And that's how I look at it. I look at, you're creating a new class in its right.
Sure,
like how Rex is a polymyth. He's not 4 classes. He's a know-it-all. And by definition, a polymyth is someone who knows a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Warlock is the most multi-classed. Like, maybe that's not your main race, but everybody always dabs into Warlock.
Yeah, I think so. Warlock.
Eldritch Blast because it scales and you get all the beams, but you have to at least take 2. I personally like taking 3 because Ancient Book of Secrets, Pack of the Tome.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah.
Because
more cantrips.
You get more cantrips, but then you get the book, and the book means that any spell you find anywhere and it's a ritual, you can put in your book. Doesn't matter what spell.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what I did for Nyko / Roland, but that's story reasons, right? So he ends up somewhere else, and he makes a pack, and he's like, but he's on a quest to try to find Plane Shift.
Yeah.
So he can come back to Ukador. But that's story reasons and story beats to drive those motivations to get all those bells and whistles.
And in an alternate way, while that, the perception of Warlock is that it's one that's easily picked up for multiclassing, or that it's a frequent thing that people pick up for multiclassing, on the alternative extreme, I find that Druid is the least taken for multiclassing, because it in and of itself is not something that is inherently easy to blend with when it comes to multiclassing, right?
I agree.
The only other, like, there are 2 other clesses that really works with, and it's Cleric and Ranger, and that,
Barbarian.
I will say Barbarian Druid could do it, but Druids are the least flexible when it comes to multiclassing, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, Warlocks are universal. You can be any class and
because it's
dabble
wisdom.
in it.
Like, who uses wisdom, right? Like,
it's the fact that Druids need to be a Druid. Like, you can't just splash Druid, because there's really not much to get until you've dug into it several levels.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, if you go Rogue, you get your Sneak Attack, you can get your Expertise. You go Bard, you get a Spellcast, and get Eldritch Blast. You can get Sorcerer.
You just have to be patient, too, because, like, if we go back to Kalu from Fables of Ukador, he was 4 levels Moon Druid and 5 Barbarian, Totem Bear Barbarian. But that's nasty.
But that combination is very specific.
Very
it has
specific.
you
That
have
is the
to-
combination. There's nothing else. Yeah.
There is nothing else. You
Yeah.
cannot, like, for example, I'm not going to be a Circle of Dreams druid and then a Path of the Zealot barbarian. That's not how that works, right? Like,
That's a conflicted person.
Like someone showed
Very.
me they were a level, like they did like 12 levels as rogue, and they did like 6 levels as a barbarian, and then they splashed in a little bit of druid just to do wild shape, just to like give themselves extra health in critical moments to save themselves to get away and re-come in to rage and rogue. I just druid's very hard to flex in there.
It
is, yeah.
And why flex? Just be a druid and be a badass.
Exactly.
Like that's
because druid is
the point.
Yeah, you can just ride druid all the way because you can be. That's the other thing. Druid is very versatile in its own right.
Correct.
Be a different type of druid, and druids are
Does anybody else have wisdom as their modifier?
It's cleric and ranger. So for example, like in my home game currently, I have what we're doing in my home game is that we're using all of Dragon Rock's creations to like play test things and like see how well things work. So we've created a circle of druid called the Circle of Stone. And things. So what we've based it around is like the stone and earth based spells. And so I have my player Billy, who leveled up his druid, I think it was to level 8, and then at 9th level, instead of going more into druid, he became a cleric. And we also have a domain that we've created called the Domain of Word. So the best part was like Billy has really got really good character flair and like has an innate sense of creating flavor. So what he did was he made a Leonin stone druid and named it Fortitude. Now, for those of you who are on the East Coast or have been to New York, you will know that Fortitude is the name of one of the 2 lions that sits outside the New York Public Library.
Wow.
And so I have Fortitude and his brother Patience, who exist in my world. So the story is that him and his brother were looking after the big library, my version of the Library of Alexandria, which has fallen into the abyss. So being that he carries these library books with him all the time, he was just like, no, I really think this is the time where we do the Domain of Word, because this makes really good sense. And I was like, okay, cool. And so now it's just the decision-making process is very interesting. And like the moment that the player chooses to take that route, at what moment, I feel is like one of the most crucial things.
Absolutely.
Very much so. Like undoubtedly.
Yeah, we have one question in the chat and then we're going to take a quick break. Do you guys think that Rogue is the second most picked multi-class after Warlock?
That's
it's funny. I treat Rogue, I don't even think Rogue is a picked multi-class. I feel like most people who pick multi-classes pick Rogue as a base.
Yeah.
Because of the skill starts is really powerful, because Rogue isn't worth getting after the fact.
Correct. It's being able to have access to the proficiencies, the skills, the expertise, things like that. That's why Rogue is usually where they start. And even then, I would say that honest to God, like the most picked multi-class, in my opinion, where I will gently disagree with Mr. Solo, is actually fighter. That is, in my opinion, the most picked multi-class, because all you need is 2 or 3 levels in fighter. You only want the action surge, just or the second wind. Boom, that's 2 levels. You want a specific fighting style, you just go 1 level more, and then you can do specific things with your damage, right? So that for me is where, because fighter is so versatile in how it in what it can do and what it provides you. That's my opinion on that one.
I will say, to add to that, I think for me, Rogue and Fighter are typically the most common starts, for the simple fact that you either want to start with all the proficiencies that Rogue gives you, or you want to start with all the armor and stuff that the Fighter gives you to get to what you need as a start to survive, and then you splash the rest of your story class on it. Right. But it's also, I think, RP wise, because no matter what you do, it's easier to come in like, I'm a fighter, and then I learned magic, or I went to the church, or someone gave me a spell, or I found out that I'm a sorcerer, or I started reading books, or I talked to a lion and it told me that I can do magic now.
Yeah.
Well,
One of the
you
yeah.
can, I was gonna say, I mean, like, well, how many like video games, anything like that, do you start out? You start out with your sword and buckler, and then you go from there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every RPG, I mean, video game, you start out that way, and then you go, oh, I don't want these anymore.
Yeah, that is true. You always start off, they're like, here's a sword. You're like, and I'm done. Magic, thank you.
Yes.
What was
Oh,
it called?
hey,
It was called the
you're
crossbuckler.
awake.
Is that what it was?
Crossbuckler, yes.
You guys will see later.
Yeah.
A new Middle Earth toy. I really want to play Castilius.
I
Just want to throw
see.
that out there.
Yes.
So we're going to go on a quick 5-minute break. We'll come back. Don't forget, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and tag me, DM Chris Solo, in the chat, and I will field your questions when we get back. Be back in 5.